Well, folks, good day to you, one and all. And, well, so things change with time. Can you believe it? The end of the MSA GT3 iRSA series for 2023. Is it possible? Could it have gone past so quickly? Well, with me, as always, the voice of West Province Motorsport, Frankie Yennis, in the second year production studios down here in the friendly city of Cape Town. Frankie, good evening to you.
Gary, good evening and welcome everybody at home. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to be in for an absolutely crackerjack race event. There'll be a lot of people watching it. We come to you from the 24-hour Le Mans circuit in the town of Le Mans in France, with the outside temperature 24 degrees, trackside is 27, clear skies, 22k an hour race, and the track is over 13.5 kilometers long. So, yeah, the guys are doing like 3 minutes and 54, 3:55 in qualifying the top runners. And we're in for the 10-minute qualifying session. Now, it is all about those four gentlemen there. Yuri Swart on 162 is 8 points ahead of Byron Mitchell, who is 8 points ahead of Troy Dolacek, who is 8 points ahead of Luke King. In other words, 24 points separating the top four. The winner gets 26 points, Gary. You can go through that all the way down till 1. So the fight is very, very much on between Swart, Mitchell, Dolacek, and just for the heck of it, Luke King.
So the pressure's pretty much on at this stage of the fight. If you think about it, that first place, the prize money being sponsored by Canvas Intelligence, 20,000 Rand. That's just sitting there waiting for Umpi Swart if he can pull this one off. And it's not going to be very easy, let's be honest. There's a lot of quick cars out there. 26 for first, 24 for second, 22 for third, 20, 19, 18, 17. So it goes down from there. So yeah, I think most of the hard work is in fact already done, but you have to be in it in the finals to be able to win it, and it's not going to be an easy take for any of the guys out there, given that, well, what was there? I think in the top six in the practice a little bit earlier on today, we had literally zero point 0.6 of a second between all the guys. Well, there you go. That's the first laps that have been put up. There is Umpi Swart, that's the fastest man out there right now. Troy Dolacek, 6 tenths slower than him. Then it's Byron Mitchell, Luke Lucchese, Julian Familiaris, the first one that's outside of a second. But now remember, if you don't have a clean lap, it doesn't give you a lap time at all. So a lot of the guys put in a banker lap and then they push hard to see if they can get a little bit closer to their ultimate lap times as such. To my mind, well, there Raymond Duggan pops in on 11th position. To my mind, there should be about 25 guys out there.
Yeah, and the first four so far is within a second. Remember, we've only done 6 minutes of the 10, and that is Yuri Swart that you're looking at there, Yuri Umpi Swart. He's done a 3:56.980 so far. That's a Troy Dolacek. That is 6 tenths of a second off him in that second position at this point in time. Then the other Durant Motorsport car, that is the Audi R8 of Byron Mitchell. That is in that third position, 8 tenths of a second off Swart. There we see the 24 car, that's Luke Lucchese. And he is just under a second off Yuri Swart. And as we said early on, it's only those four cars so far that is in within a second or just under a second of each other.
Julian Familiaris, you can see he's a little bit past 55% of the lap done already as he's on his way around for the second time. There is Luke King. He's just a little bit further back from there. Chase Herald in the 7th position right now. He works his way through the top corner, and that top corner is known as the Mulsanne corner as opposed to the Mulsanne Straight that they've just come off. Jason Kutsia, he was the second fastest in the pre-quali session. He was 3.3 slower than Umpi Swart, who was fourth fastest in the pre-quali session. So you can expect Jason to put up a pretty decent lap time.
Yeah, representing race driver SA, there is Leon van Wyk in that top 10 in P9, 3.3 off provisional pole. That is Swart with that Porsche RVs. There is the Audi of Graham Stephen. He rounds off the top 10. One over two Audis in the top 10, of course, Mitchell being the other one. Raymond Duggan in that Iron Brew sponsored BMW sits in 11th place, 3.9 off dollar check, and that is the top 11 so far. We go back to the man that sits there in that second position. Now remember, those three drivers you see there, Swart, dollar check, and Mitchell, they are first, second, and third in the championship so far. Swart from Mitchell from dollar check. And they will be fighting it out for that prize money. The only thing that's keeping King out of the top 5 at this point is Julian Familiaris.
Let's see, has he done enough to go any quicker? Yes, Troy Dolanchik goes to the front. What can Oompie Swart do? Oompie Swart goes back to the front directly after that. And then Julian from the RS on the second row of the grid. Jason Coetzee up onto the second row of the grid. And oh, look, Kezi pops into the house. And he's up on the second row of the grid.
Now remember, he's not in that top 4 in the championship, but he's going to make life very uncomfortable. Mitchell sits there in P6 behind Lou King, with a minute to go in the qualifying stint. That's going to be very, very, very difficult for these guys. Jason Coetzee just over a second behind Mitchell. There we see Duncan Murray working his way around. Where's he going to filter in? Duncan Murray crosses the line, and he is not in that top 17 at all. As a matter of fact, he's in P18.
So that means that he did not put up a clean lap. Willem is stopped alongside the circuit. And, well, let's see, I think Leon is done as well. Raymond Duggan, he also just slows it down with the Iron Brew car. So 17 that have got a clean lap in, who didn't get one in, who didn't get themselves onto the grid with 10 seconds to go. It is Duncan Murray, Corne Breed, Stephen Kakebreek, Willem Botha, Pieter Joubert, and Noor Hendricks. Wow.
No, Noor Hendricks logged into the practice session and didn't post a time there neither. So let's hope that we do see Noor Hendricks in that Ferrari. Right, here we go. Oompie Swart, Troy Dolanchik, Julian Familiaris, Luke Lucchesi, Luke King, and Byron Mitchell. That's your first 3 rows of the grid.
Behind that will be Jason Coetzee, John T. Weiss, Tristan Nobrick. Running out the top 10 is Chase Herald.
Leon van Wyk, Graham Stephen in row 6, row 7, Peter van der Spey and JJ van der Merwe, row 8, Sandra Bakari, Raymond Duggan, and row 9, Gerald Fourie and Pieter Joubert.
Rounding off with Willem Botha, Duncan Murray, Corne Breed, and Stephen Kakebreed, and Noor Hendricks, none of which actually put up a clean lap, and hence the fact that they are just, as they basically came onto the server, that is the way they've been placed at the bottom end. So that gives you an idea. It's a couple of Ferraris, a couple of BMWs, a couple of Porsches, only 3 Audis out there, the leading Audi being Byron Mitchell. But then again, you can give Byron Mitchell a wheelbarrow without handles on it and you'll still be quick.
And of course, Van der Merwe is the lone sole Mercedes-Benz driver out in that 14th position. So here we go. We're waiting for
Looking.
a couple of drivers. Dolanchik is now in, King is not in, Swart is not in yet. Oompie Swart is not in yet. Him and Luke King. He and Luke King, they're the only 2 that's not on the grid yet.
Yeah.
Okay, Luke King is there. And Oompie is there. Right, we're all ready to go.
So this should be pretty interesting stuff as they're going to be in there behind the safety car. Let's get a track map up for you that you can see roughly where they are. There you can see they're going to go through a couple of corners. They're going to go through the Porsche corner, the SS, Corvette, Maison Branch, the Ford corner, and then it'll be onto the start-finish line. So 90 minutes of action it's going to be. This is going to be pretty interesting stuff, and 60,000 rands worth of prize money that is in it for this one.
Right, we are ready to go. They are now heading through the basically into the Corvette chicane. The moment they get to that Ford chicane, then it is virtually all systems go, because the pit lane is in that vicinity. And then they go to the start finish line. Then the safety car will peel off to its right. 16 points between first, second and third. The championship is up for grabs. 24 points if you add Luke King, that's in that fourth position, and it's all systems go. And 4 of them are in there. It's only for Mulsanne that is going to spoil the party for those 4. He sits there in that top 6 position. Is for Mulsanne in that top 6, within that top 6. So we are about to go. The safety car will pull in shortly. They're heading towards the start-finish line. And can you imagine the nerves? Big thanks to Canvas Intelligence, the main sponsor of the 2023 GT3 MSA Series. The safety car will peel off to its right, to the left of your screen. And then it will be all systems go. Pretty strange, because that's the pit lane there on the right hand side, so I think it's there it moves off, it dived off very, very late, and we are about to go green here at the circuit Le Mans in France. The lights are green, 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 and away they go. And Donachik gets a lovely start off the line there. Sits in there just behind Swan. Flash lights at Swan already. Familiar Harris is there in that third position. Then look at Luke Lucchesi. He and Luke King is right in the house as well. Mitchell wants to go up with the ID up on the inside of King. Now sits on the outside of King as they work their way through. Jason Kutsia is in that fight as well as they race under the Dunlop Bridge and out onto the endurance track.
The only person that showed up there as maybe going off circuit was in fact Tristan de Nobrega. That a little bit of an off track at that stage of the fight, but Umpi Swart leading out from Troy. Oh, this is going to be brilliant stuff. Look at that. Umpi Swart, Troy Dolanchik, and then just in behind them, the duo of Julian from the iRSA and Luke Lucchesi. Then the next 2 is Luke King, John T. Weiss, Chase Herald, the next one coming through. And Chase Herald is already in attack mode.
Right down the Mulsanne straight they go towards the first of those chicanes. And Chase Herald sits up on the inside there of John T. Weiss. The 2 BMWs are side by side. Herald will have the line for the for the chicane, and through he goes on that chicane. So Chase Herald will have his nose ahead there of John T. Weiss. 0.5 of a second between them so far as they work their way down the Mulsanne straight towards the second chicane, which will take them into the Mulsanne corner.
Byron Mitchell sitting pretty close on the back bumper there of John T. Weiss. Look at that. Oh, how's that? You're about to move once, and that's exactly what he does. He covers it off, but now has a look right around the outside, and now about to make it one stick. So Byron Mitchell goes up one position. Leon von all going slowly. Something's gone wrong with John T. Weiss. John T. Weiss is dropping down the pecking order. Something has gone wrong for John T.
Yeah, John T. Weiss going very slow in that 31 car. He sits in that 16th position so far as John T. Weiss. And behind him comes Raymond Duggan, Tristan Nobrega, and Peter Hubert in the Pennzoil car. The 3 of them are not too far behind John T. Weiss as they work their way into that tight right-hander called the Mulsanne corner.
JJ van der Merwe closing up on the back end of the Red Bull car of Peter van der Spey, but Gerald Fourie has closed in there. Oh, what a beautiful sight that is. South Africa's best, sponsored by Canvas Intelligence, brought to you by Second Gear Productions from the Le Mans 24-hour circuit in GT3 cars. The finals for this year for 2023, and Troy Dolanchik is doing what he does best. Leaves less than a car length between himself and whoever's in front of them, and somehow he sees the markers and he manages to get it all right.
Well, I can tell you this for nothing, that the Byron Mitchell sits in P8. That's not where he wants to be. He's currently second in the championship, and he's down in that 8th position, 0.7 of a second behind Chase Herald. So Byron Mitchell's going to have to get some kind of a move on. replay here at Gerald Fourie in that 99 car, sitting there just behind Van der Merwe, and he goes really slow coming out of that left-hander and almost pulls the car to a halt.
I wonder if he had some other connectivity problems there as we go back to Troy Dolanczyk. That's 3/10 off the back of Umpi. You're probably going to find that Troy's going to do what he loves to do. Sit right on the back bumper of the lead car and just follow them through and keep the pressure on.
Dolanczyk there in that second position, 4/10 of a second between himself and Yuri Swart in that 39 Ferrari. For Dolanczyk of Chicanes Properties. Yuri Swart representing Durant Motorsport, also Bullion IT as well in real-time racing. There is Willem Botha. You see Willem there just behind John Weiss. Right on his case is Peter van der Spey, and right on van der Spey's case is Willem Botha. Willem Botha just moved right out the way in that 23 car. Here comes the 70 car of the Nobrega. He made the move there on Willem Botha.
And Duncan Moret's gone into the pits. He must have had some kind of problems. And then also going into the pits is Sandro Macari. Very, very strange. I didn't see them having any specific incidents at all, but they've worked their way into the pits. So be it. Let's go a little bit further towards the front end of the field. There's the front two. That's just out of screen. That's Umpi Swart and Troy Dolanczyk, and then that's Julian from the RS and Luke Lucchesi in the Race Driver South Africa sponsored car.
Lucchesi sitting there in that fourth place, 6/10 of a second behind him is Luke King, and 4/10 of a second behind King is Jason Kutsia as they work their way down Mulsanne into that first right-left hairpin. And then on the gas again to continue down that Mulsanne straight. Lucchesi for Race Driver SA and Pantera Racing in that fourth place. 5/10 of a second behind Familiaris, who is 2.3 behind Dolanczyk. Here is Gerald Fourie up on the inside of Peter Hubert. Goes Fourie in 316, and that's making the move in that first of those chicanes going down the Mulsanne straight. And trouble at the back there for JJ van der Merwe.
Yeah, it looks like something went wrong for JJ. Let's just have a look, see exactly what it was. That's the Bigfoot Express AMG Mercedes-Benz. Oh, the front end just watched away and then it got nibbled from behind. So he must have just lifted the... Oh, and he's broken the back wing off. That is disastrous. That means he's going to have to go into the pits at some point soon to be able to sort that out. So let's have a quick shofty from the front end down.
Right, Yuri Swart, 3/10 of a second ahead of Dolanczyk. That's first and second you see there on the screen. Then there's 2.3 seconds before we see Familiaris. That is in that third position. He's been hassled there by Luke Lucchesi. Right on Lucchesi's case is Luke King. And right on his case is Jason Kutsia for Race Driver SA Esports. He is right on his case, and not too far behind them is the Audi of Durant Motorsports, Byron Mitchell. Leon van Wyk isn't doing that bad. He's got Graham Stephen there with him. And then Chase Harold is in the fight there with Peter van der Spey and the Bass warehouse car of John Weiss.
Nothing much between the three of them. They're sitting all over the back end of the Chase Herald car. Justin Nobrega finds himself a long way further back from that. 4.9 seconds. There you see Tristan in the background. There comes Tristan Nobrega. Just behind him is Willem Botha. And then behind Willem Botha, working his way through. You see, it's got the 75 on the side, but the 99 on the back. That in fact is Gerald Fourie. Leighton not out here today. He still oversees Jason Kutsia, starting to make the moves on Luke King.
Luke King is going to have a bit of pressure here applied by the Race Driver SA Esports man. That is a 77 BMW of Jason Kutsia. That's in that sixth position. And they're working their way now towards the Ford Curves. And then from there, down onto that main straight. The pit entrance is on the right hand side. Remember, it's 90 minutes. I think here from about 50 to 55 minutes they will start diving into the pits for their normal routine pit stops. And Dolanczyk is the quickest man up there, 3 minutes 56.379. He just stole that to one away there from Umpi Swart.
Look, Lucchese, and he's all over the back end of Julian Familiaris. Nothing much between the two of them on the last lap times whatsoever. And, well, there's a couple of big names that's a long way down. Raymond Duggan, he's gone into the pit lane. John T. Weiss is out of it. Gerald Faris a long way back. A lot of these big names. Justin Nobriga out of the top 10. That's very, very surprising.
Yeah, but he had troubles on the opening lap, and that's what dropped him all the way down the leaderboard. And he's clawed his way back so far. He sits there in P12, does the Nobriga. But we ride on board here with the man that sits in that fourth position, and that is Luke Lucchese. And he is right on the case of Julian Familiaris of Durant Motorsport. Now Familiaris, that's in that third position, he'll be wanting to go for the win. He's not in the top 3 or top 4. As a matter of fact, I think he is in 5th position overall in the points, if I'm not mistaken. Gary will put that up on the screen for us as the day goes by. He is actually, yes, he is in P5. And he sits behind Luke King, currently in the championships after round 7. This is the final round, and he is there in that 4th place, keeping Luke King behind him. Luke King, that sits 4th in the championship, is a 10th of a second behind Lucchese.
Troy Dolenchik, that's overtaken Umpi Swart in the Sujin Properties car. Now remember, with one more round of the Extreme Festival to go, he has already won the InvestGame Formula 1600. 200,000 rands worth of prize money. He's looking to putting a couple of bob in his pocket here, compliments of Canvas Intelligence at the end of today's race. But Umpi Swart has got a lot of money to lose on this one, or to gain on this one. So the two of them, they might be friends, they might be very competitive with one another, but there is big money involved in this one.
I think Troy is about 17 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And he's got the Swat in there behind him. And then what Luke King, we ride aboard here with Luke King, and he is looking at that race driver SA and Pantera Racing Porsche of Luke Lucchese. That's just ahead of him. Luke is staring down at the Familiaris Ferrari as they make their way towards the corner that's known as Indianapolis.
Yep, there you can see what is where. BMW from 2 Ferraris, Porsche another 2 BMWs, then Byron Mitchell, who was the fastest of the Audis in the practice and in the qualifying, ahead of Graham Stephen and Peter Hubert that are also in Audis out there. The leading, or the only Mercedes-Benz that is out there is in fact JJ van der Merwe. That's the Bigfoot Express AMG, and he, having been into the pits, he finds himself a long way back.
Yeah, Luke King sitting there in that 5th place. That is that fight there. They're chasing down Familiaris' 3rd position. He sits in P3, Lucchese and King P4 and 5. That's the 3 cars you see there. You ride aboard with King, that's in P5, and you just see P3 and 4 just ahead of him as they make their way towards the Ford Curve. All the way back down to that 14th position with Gerald Faris that's just ahead there of Willem Botha. So the 2 Porsches are fighting it out so far for Faris' 13th place. And we see the 2 of them, and Botha had a look at him there as they work in their way towards the end of the lap. And they will go around and start another lap. And Troy Dolenchik is the quickest man out there. A 3-minute 56.296 for race leader Troy Dolenchik.
That is very quick. I think that's even quicker than the fastest qualifying time. Chase Herald in that 10th position. He was in 12th at one stage of the fight. It all worked out nicely for him, and he's just getting himself now onto the back bumper of Graham Stephen. I think he'll just get closer and closer till he gets to the Mulsanne Straight, and I think that's probably where he's going to launch his attack.
Well, we have a look at a fight earlier between Botha and Faris, and Gerald has now gone into the pit lane, and so has Peter Hubert. The 2 of them have worked their way into the pits with 12 minutes and 40 seconds done. I'm not quite sure what happened there or why the 2 of them went into the pits, but they are definitely in pit lane, Gerald and Peter. But we go back to that fight here for 9th position. It is Graham Stephen, that's in P9. Just behind him is Chase Herald. Ahead of them is Leon van Wyk. We go back to that fight for 4th position, and they are sitting in there behind Familiaris is Luke Lucchese, right on his case. is Luke King and Jason Couture as they make their way down the Mulsanne Straight.
Well, it's actually become, instead of being the hunter, he's now become the hunter. Look, Lucchese looking forward, that's what he sees. If he looks backwards, even closer to him than the car that's in front of him, that is the man that's chasing him down. That is Luke King, and Luke King's actually putting a lot of pressure on Luke Lucchese, and that is actually giving Junior from the RS just that little bit of space to be able to take the lines that he wants. He doesn't have to worry about the brake markers. He can run wherever he thinks is the fastest part of the circuit.
Right, you see the two leaders go through, and Justin de Nobrigue's coming under attack here from Peter van der Spey. Van der Spey had a look there at the de Nobrige in P11, Van der Spey in P12. As a matter of fact, de Nobrige made the move on Van der Spey because de Nobrige was in 12th position. He's now moved up to P11, so he has made the move on Van der Spey. There has de Nobrige. And then 3.9 seconds behind them is the Porsche of Willem Botha.
Yeah, they see, Tristan de Nobrige did in fact make the passing maneuver a little bit earlier on. And, well, let's have a look at that one. Tristan de Nobrige, where did he actually get past? That was on the second section of the Mulsanne Straight, and that's coming down to the Relentless here, 2, as they refer to it. And that was where the actual passing maneuver took place. So we are 4 laps in 14 minutes 50 into the 1.5 hours. Let's go from the top end down.
Right, there's Dolacek and Swart, 0.2 of a second between them. That's first and second. That's the drivers you see there on your screen. And they're heading towards the end of the lap. Then there's a 3.5 second gap before we see Julian Familiaris that's been hassled here by Luke Lucchese and by Luke King. They are 3, 4, and 5, and closing up on them is Jason Couture, 1.1 seconds behind the King. He's a Couture for race driver SAE Sport. Another man that's doing pretty well in the Vescam Formula 1600s. He's got a little bit of work to do before he wraps up second in that championship. It'll be the first time two Cape Town has come 1-2 in that one. There is Byron Mitchell in that 7th spot, and he's 2.4 behind the Couture, and that is not exactly where the Durant Motorsport man wants to find himself right now.
Now Leon van Wyk is 9 seconds further back. He's the second of the Porsches that's out there on circuit. Fastest lap time being put in there by Umpi Swart, and not letting Dolanchik get away, but never more than half a second between the two of them at the best of times anyway. Chase Herald, let's see, is he quick enough to be able to close down? Leon van Wyk will put up a 359.5, a 359.1. Chase Herald is closing.
Yeah, Chase Herald with a 359.102. And there he is with his CHR Chase Herald Racing BMW. It sits there behind Van Wyk. He's been hunted down there by the Golf Audi R8 of Graham Stephen. That rounds off the top 10. And he's 4.2 seconds ahead of Peter van der Spey. And Peter van der Spey has got his nose ahead of de Nobrige. That one chop and changed around early on. De Nobrige made the move on Van der Spey, held it there for a while, and now Van der Spey has got his nose back ahead of Tristan, who goes back down from P11 to P12. Now look at the replay to see what happened. He just moved right out of the way.
And slowed down on top of it.
Yes, under the Audi Sport Bridge. He just bailed right out of it. I'm not sure what the problem was there. But he basically handed that position back to Van der Spey.
That's strange, and it's not the first time that we've seen that. Ooh, Umpi Swart closing up on the... look at that. You can't get much closer.
Right, he's going to have a look on the outside as they make their way down the Mulsanne Straight towards that second hairpin. Remember, the first one does a right-left. This one does a left-right. And then back onto Mulsanne again before you get to the Mulsanne corner, which will take you down towards Indianapolis. So right now they're heading through that second chicane and on their way towards that tight right-hander that is known as the Mulsanne corner. If you stay with this screenshot, you'll see it's a very, very tight right-hander that's coming up. A slight kink to the right, and then you're on the brakes and you pull that car into that right-hander and then work your way through the gearbox once again.
Interesting, very, very interesting to see how this one's playing itself out. And Tristan Nobriger is once again closing onto the back of Peter van der Spey.
Well, while they're doing that, Willem Botha is closing up. He's 3.6 behind the two of them, so they keep on fighting with each other. Botha will come into play as de Nobriger closes right up onto the back of Van der Spey. There is Botha in that lucky 13th position. Is Botha. He's just making his way out of the Mulsanne corner, and he's keeping an eye on them. This is a replay of Gerald Fourie in the 99 Porsche, and almost does a swapper and slams into the Armco and breaks the rear wing off that Porsche.
Yeah, he jumped it back to the pit lane as well. Let's see if we can see. No, he must have come out of the pit lane already. I don't even see him there at all. I think he's completely out of it.
Yeah,
I think he's gone.
I think we might have just lost Gerald Fourie. Remember, we didn't even get Noah Hendricks into the race in the Ferrari, so he never even joined. But we'll have a look and see. But for now, we might possibly have lost, and that would be sad, the the Porsche of Gerald Fourie. However, you haven't lost Chase Harold, because he's having a fight here with Leon van Wyk. Harold and van Wyk, 0.3 of a second separating Leon van Wyk in the Porsche from the BMW of Chase Harold Racing, and looming in there behind them is the Audi of Graham Stephen.
Yeah, Graham Stephen not far behind. There he is. But I think we must go and have a look at that Jason King, Luke Lucchese. That looks like it's quite an awesome battle that's going down there. In fact, let's drive on board with Jason Kutsia.
So Kutsia sits there in P6, and Jason is right in that fight. They're chasing down that third position of Familiaris as they make their way under the Dunlop Bridge. There where those cones are, if you veer off to the right there, you go onto the Grand Prix circuit called the Circuit Bugatti. We're not doing that, we're doing the Endurance. So we're going now towards that right-hander, which will take us onto the Mulsanne Straight. It's like a double right-hander, and then you've got this lovely long straight. I'd love to know how long the Mulsanne Straight is without those chicanes, as Jason Kutsia sits there right on the case of Luke King.
It'll be interesting to see if we can actually use the slipstream to close up at all. It doesn't look like it. 0.312, 0.310, nothing much in it. But then again, I suppose Luke King is picking up the toe from Luke Lucchese. Luke Lucchese is picking up the toe from Julian from the iRSA. So let's see, does Luke Lucchese close on from the iRSA? 0.42. Nothing much in it, not even a tenth of a second as they go through the gearbox up into fifth gear, up into sixth. That's as far as you can go. Luke King was the tenth of a second. Is he going to go for the dive? Closing the line off is Luke Lucchese. He closed the line off very, very neatly. Oh, just starts to snake slightly underneath him, did Luke King, and with that little bit of a snake, he just had to roll out of the brakes a little bit and then go back harder onto the brake, and that is where Jason Kutsia closed up. Is Jason Kutsia, Frankie, just following through, or do you think he's trying to put the pressure on to force some mistakes up front?
No, obviously he's putting the pressure on. He wants to get higher up that leaderboard, and another man that wants to get higher up that leaderboard is Mitchell. He's 3.1 behind Kutsia. That showed his nose there to Luke King coming out of the Mulsanne corner, and now working their way down that long straight towards Indianapolis. So Jason Kutsia that sits there in P6, he is not in that top 10 as a matter of fact.
So he's got nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose, everything to gain. A podium, that's what he can gain in this one, and make life uncomfortable for all the others, and that's exactly what he's going to do, because he doesn't care about that championship fight. Neither does this man, as a matter of fact. Luke Lucchese, he's not in the top 5. So he's not going to worry about it. He's having a look up on the inside of Familiaris, and Lucchese makes a move stick on Julian Familiaris as they work their way now towards the end of the lap.
Oh, look at that. It's not over. It's not over whatsoever. I think Julian's going to have a go.
He might have a go to get back at him again, heading towards the end of the lap. When you start seeing those trees there, you know you're heading towards the Corvette Curves and the Ford Curves and also the Porsche Curves for that matter. So you know that you are busy making your way towards the end of the straight. As a matter of fact, if anything, Lucchese is getting slightly away from Familiaris, and Luke King is on the case there of Julian.
Well, what we actually need to do now is to remember 5.2 from Luke Lucchese to that front end battle. Now, Lucchese's got open ground. He didn't have open ground earlier on. Now he does. So we'll see what lap time he puts up now while he was sitting behind Julian Familiaris. Let's just see what the lap times are as they come through. Luke Lucchese, after making the passing maneuver, 56.2, a 57.1, a 56.9. Okay, remember those numbers. Luke Lucchese, 3 minutes 56. Let's see if he goes any quicker with some open air in front of him.
Well, I just saw a personal best there for Byron Mitchell, who's 2.6 behind Kutsia. He did a PB, so did Chase Herald and Leon van Wyk and Graham Stephen for that matter. So quite a few personal bests coming through. Let's include Willem Botha in that one. So Luke King sitting there in that 5th position, and he's going to have to go somewhat because he's not closing up onto Familiaris. If anything, Jason Kutsia is closing up there onto the back of King.
Well, Jason Kutsia is actually looking very, very consistent to my mind. I think that he's literally sitting in the slipstream, preserving the tires just a little bit. But he can't mess around too much because Byron Mitchell's not that far behind.
No, Byron's getting closer. Byron is 2.8 behind Kutsia. He's going to have to get a move on. Byron has to get a move on. He cannot sit there in that 7th position. He has to get involved in this fight. He's currently 2nd in the championship, 8 points behind Yuri Umpiswart, and he doesn't need to find himself there. He's going to have to pull a rabbit out of a hat, maybe use the pit stops to his advantage and get up a lot closer than where he is now.
There's actually his problem because Troy Dolenchik is only 8 points behind him. So with Troy Dolenchik where he is now, if things had to end up the way they are, Troy Dolenchik would bag 24 points. Byron Mitchell in 7th would be 24, 22, 20, 19, 18, 17. So 7 points is the difference between the two of them right now.
Correct. Now is Luke Lucchese busy holding them up. He's going as quick as he can. Now Familiaris says you need to get a damn move on because you're keeping up this entire express train. He wants to look around the outside there, heading towards the Mulsanne corner. And they both get through. The other leaders come through. Never mind them. They're 6.8 seconds ahead of this fight. That's heading towards us now, heading down towards Indianapolis. And there they go. It is Luke Lucchese, it's Julian Familiaris, it's Luke King, it is Jason Kutsia, and closing up at the back is Byron Mitchell. It's going to be a hell of a fight for that 3rd position.
Oh, no
as
doubt about
Familiaris has got his nose ahead of Lucchese.
So Lucchese made up the move, has now lost that position once again. So it's not a case of can Lucchese close up on Troy Dolenchik and Umfi Swart. It's a case of they are all now further behind, with Julian Familiaris being now 6 seconds further back. And at this stage of the fight, with that gap getting bigger and bigger, it just takes the pressure off Troy Dolenchik because him and Umfi Swart have now got an even bigger gap. They were, remember, on 5.7. They now on 6.8. So that little, shall we say, tete-a-tete between those guys has created that situation where the gap actually gets just a little bit bigger. Looking forward from the nose cone of Jason Kutsia, 0.3 of a second. And let's have a look at what kind of speed these guys are actually doing. 190 kilometers an hour as they work their way through, and that is through the Dunlop Curves coming up towards Chapel, and after Chapel, sorry, that is going through the Ford Curve, and that'll be the last 2 corners, the Ford Curve and they're called the Recordement. It's not a known name to us at all, but that is the start finish line as they come through for yet another lap. So with that kind of gap, it's now gone to 7 seconds. Troy Dolenchik and Umfi Swart, that's a class act. They've updusted and disappeared. Here's the real fight that's coming through behind it.
Yeah, Jason Kutsia is going to have to get a bit of a move on. Well, he's right there. He closes up under braking under that back wing there of Luke King, who's on the case there of Lucchese. And let's not write off Byron. Now he's only 2 seconds behind Jason Kutsia. So Byron Mitchell, he's clawing his way back into this one. There he is with Dunlop Motorsport in that Audi R8.
Oh, doesn't that look tantalizing, Frankie, as you come through the corner out into the base end of the Mulsanne Straight, and you see that in front of you. All you want is just that little bit closer so you can start picking up that slipstream.
Now, what he would want right now is for them to trip each other up, and he can make up a place or two. That's exactly what he wants right now. He just hasn't got that extra leg so far to catch up onto the back of Familiaris, Lucchese and King, as we ride on board here with Jason. That's in that 6th place once again, sitting right on the case there of Luke King, who is crowding that back bumper of Lucchese as they work their way down the Mulsanne Straight, and the 2 leaders are heading towards the end of Mulsanne, and there's 0.3 of a second between them as we stay on board here with Jason Kutsia.
282 as opposed to 278, 4 kilometers an hour faster was Jason Kutsia before they climbed on the brakes, and that is what's making the difference. That is why Byron is sweating to catch them, because Jason has got that multiple slipstream that he's getting into. Let's just have a look at it again. Here's Jason Kutsia. He's in the 260s. 270, 276 and 270, 6 kilometers an hour top speed difference. So he's got to make it up here, where the guys in front of him are slowing one another down in the corners. Byron Mitchell's got to make it up in the corners, and I'm sure that Kenny Fletcher is probably sitting there scratching his neck and on his back and just say to him, come on buddy, just keep on concentrating, just make it happen.
I think his dad Gordon's also probably sitting there watching this wherever he might find himself, saying, come on boy, you can do this. You're currently 2nd in the championship. You need to catch up. Oh, here comes Kutsia up on the inside of Luke King, runs him a touch wide. That's a block pass if ever I saw one. Yeah. Well done there to Jason Kutsia.
Well, I tell you, it was always going to happen. It was a case of when it was going to happen. A little bit of luck that we happened to be in the right place at the right time. Umpiswart doing a Troy Dolan check on Troy Dolan check, and holding on within 0.3 of a second, and let the young man run. Just keep in there. You see them on the right hand top corner. You just saw them going out of picture. Byron Mitchell 2.2. He is getting a little bit closer.
Oh, and I think that's what Kutsia needed. He had to get his nose ahead there of Luke King, which he did, and this will now play into the hands of Mitchell. He is 2.2 behind King now. Now let's see if Kutsia can get away from King. The problem is they're sitting in a train, these guys, where you don't want to do anything silly. If you do something wrong, you could lose out big time as they head towards the end of the lap. That's the pit complex you see there on the right hand side of the screen. As they go through these chicane sections, there's the grid, and there is the main straight of Le Mans. Look at those grandstands and that pit complex of the well-known Le Mans 24-hour endurance race as they head into that right hand towards the Dunlop Bridge, into that I think there's a Dunlop Curve or a Dunlop chicane also there, which takes you towards the bridge, and then they'll move past that cones, which will take you onto the Grand Prix circuit.
Yep, that's known as the S's, that section.
And then they go towards that tight right-hander, which will take you onto Mulsanne.
Yep, that is the Mirage corner and out onto the straight. So let's see, Byron Mitchell, can he close up this time around? He was under 2 seconds going just before the complex of the S's. 260, 270, keeps on tracking. What's Luke King doing? Luke King's doing 280, 283, 284, 286, 287, 282. So Byron Mitchell once again losing out in the straights, cleans the windscreen so that he can get a nice view of those curbstones. closed it up just a little, and it's now 2.2 seconds. It's not being easy whatsoever.
See, they've got the slipstream on each other there, so they can help each other. Byron does not have that luxury. At this point, he doesn't have it. Looking there in that P6, he's the last guy in that train of cars behind Familiaris. So they all slipstreaming each other into that second of the chicanes on the Mulsanne Straight. And unfortunately for Byron Mitchell being 2.3 behind the man you ride on board with Liu King, he doesn't have that slipstream that he needs to draw him in under the back wing of Liu King.
Well, starting to make a move. Oh, Jason Gutierrez had a look for that inside line. Jason Gutierrez on a look. Lucchese backed out of it. And I think there was a little bit of contact there, light contact. But Jason, let's ride on board with Jason Gutierrez, because Jason is just so close right now. That's how close he is to Lucchese. 0.21 of a second in 5th gear, and just on top of 260 kilometers an hour.
Well, if you have a look at that leaderboard, Gary, as we just look at the names of the guys that are up there, Troy Dolacek is a man that,
he's going to make the move. He's up on the inside. Yep. He's made it stick.
Yeah, he's done that indeed, and he's made that move stick there on Luke Lucchese. And now he's going to go after Familiaris, and let's see if they can do anything as they work their way now towards the Corvette curves and the Porsche curves and the Ford curves. This is a replay of Byron Mitchell. Oh, and Luke King has smacked the wall as you have a replay here at Byron Mitchell.
Is that not Duncan Murray?
Let's just have it. No, that's Duncan Murray in the Ferrari. Behind him is Sandro Baccari. Definitely, yes, Luke King. The pressure has told. Oh. And Luke King has chucked it away, and you just saw Mitchell come through, and Byron will say thank you very much. That is exactly part of what I need.
Wow, interesting stuff. 35 minutes in the 1 hour 30. This is lap number 9 of the Le Mans 24-hour circuit. This is the final round of iRSA iRacing South Africa MSA Motorsport South Africa GT3 Series for 2023, proudly sponsored by Canvas Intelligence and brought to you by none other than Second Gear Productions.
Well, Luke King has only lost one position, but yes, he's almost 7 seconds behind Byron Mitchell, but on track he's only lost one place, so that won't phase him yet with 36 minutes done, knowing that there's a pit stop to come as well. There's Familiaris, there's Gutierrez, and behind him is the Porsche of race driver SA and Pantera Racing. That is Lucchese. As we head back to our front runners, 7/10 of a second between Dolacek and Swart. Gap is getting a little bit bigger now between Troy and Yuri.
That's what I was just thinking. Is Troy just stretching the legs of the tactician, the master tactician, Umpi Swart, to just stretch him out a little bit? But then again, you see there with just 2 cars, look how he closes up. It was 0.6, 0.5, 0.4, and then they're coming to the brake markers. 2/10 he made up in that straight. Oh, look what's coming down towards them.
Yeah, and that is being led by Familiaris, one of our main drivers in the Mobile SA V8 Supercars. And Willem Botha is having a look here at Graham Stephen. There's a 10th of a second between them, and he wants that 11th position of Graham Stephen. They are side by side as they work their way down the Mulsanne Straight. He does not have the line though. Yes, he does. He does have the line, but has he got the legs to stay ahead of the Audi R8? And he does. He has got the line into that first right-left chicane, and Willem Botha moves up the position and goes up to P11.
Umpi Swart's got a whole lot closer all of a sudden. Look at that. I think he got a bit of a wake-up call with Troy starting to make a bit of a gap on him. He's closed right up onto the back of Troy, and there comes that battle behind them as well. I don't think nothing much is going to change there. Julie from the RS, Jason could see her from 7th, from 6th, through to 5th, now through to 4th position. Can Jason could see her make a plan on the Durant Motorsport entry of Julian from the RS? Well, he's got this far. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes further.
And let's not forget about Luke King. Yes, he is 7.2. Here we go. Yuri Swart and Dolacek. They are side by side heading towards Indianapolis. And he makes the move. And Umpi Swart says, thanks, Troy, enough of this. I'll put that 39 Durant Motorsport Ferrari in P1.
But Frankie, if we look at reality, Ompi Swart, literally legend in his own time at a young age. Troy Dolanchik, literally legend in his own time at a very, very young age.
Yeah, well, if you have a look all the way down to, well, let's just go as far as Byron Mitchell. Yuri Swart is the GTI Challenger Class A champion. He's a man that ended in the top 3 on at least one occasion in the Polar Cups. Dolacek is Rookie of the Year last year for the Investchem Formula 1600. He's the champion this year. Julian Familiaris, the man that you see there, one of our top drivers in the country in the SA V8 Championships. Jason Kutsia, one of the country's top karters, together with Swart and Dolacek, and is second in the Investchem Formula 1600s. Luke Lucchesi, one of the country's top karters, a man that done Clubman's and Stanley Group N, and then Byron Mitchell, a man that has done Clubman's, has done GTI Challenge,
now
Formula
doing
Libras,
now doing endurance racing as well.
Correct. So with Peter van der Spey and the guys, so you've got a whole heap of talent just in that top 6 alone.
Then you've got the likes of Chase Herald, that's Class C GTI champion, and numerous other titles before that in oval track racing as well. Tristan de Nobrega, well, what a star-studded career he's had in the main circuit.
Yes, I see him a lot at the Western Province karting. He helps the guys out there a lot. Started with de Nobrega from that famous de Nobrega racing family. He and his brother that do a lot of racing. And then Graham Stephen, also back in the day, did karting at Western Province karting section. And, of course, family of Michael Stephen.
Peter van der Spey, Captain Pete, what a lovely guy he is. And he flies golf jets for a living. He does endurance racing. In fact, the man that helps him and builds the car and prepares it is, in fact, Gordon and Byron Mitchell. And then obviously Kelly is there whenever they're working on the car as well. Kelly Fletcher, who in her own right is a highly acclaimed racing driver and on the equestrian side as well. John Weiss in open wheelers, you name it, he's driven it. Sandro Bakari, another man that's involved with Rallycross, which is coming to Killarney 7th and the 8th of October. WRX, the 4th time in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, and of course he also races Western Province sports and GTs as well, does Sandro Bakari, when he's in the and around of Cape Town. So another man that does sports and GT. Of course, we mentioned Peter van der Spey that does endurance, but was also part of the Western Province sports and GTs at Killarney. So yeah, there is a lot of Western Province talent out there, together with of our top iRacers in the country that is in there. We're talking about people like Luke King, Leon van Wyk, Willem Botha, definitely, and all the others, Duncan Murray, and just Peter Hubert, to name a few. But he's not having a good one, Peter. He's 15 seconds behind Duggan in that 21st position. There is Duncan Murray, sits in at 18th place. He's 5 seconds behind Sandro Bakari, the man that we just spoke about. And here is JJ van der Merwe in the Bigfoot Express Mercedes-Benz Big V8 AMG. And he is there in that 19th place, 4.2 behind Duncan Murray, the only Mercedes-Benz in this Enduro.
Jason Gutsia was a little bit closer earlier on to Julian from the RS. I think Julian's turned the wick up just a little bit to ensure that he stays where he is. 42 minutes, 42 and a half, 45 would be in fact halfway through this race. and the master tactician sitting alongside me, otherwise known as the voice of West Bromwich Motorsport, saying that he predicts around about the 50-minute mark is when the guys are going to come in.
I say 55.
Some guys have been in already, but that is all the guys that have picked up problems. Sandro Bakari, Duncan Murray, JJ Panamova, Raymond Duggan. Do they have to come in again?
John Device also being one of them. They might have to, although they'll have to nurse it towards the end if they don't come in again. However, let's have a look and see. Familiaris, this is the fight for that third position. Familiaris right behind him. He's Jason Coetzee for race driver SA Esport, and then behind him we have got Luke Lucchesi, and closing up on them 2.8 seconds is Mitchell, and a personal best there for Coetzee and for Lucchesi.
And the fastest lap overall just been done by Troy Dolanchik, and he still finds himself 0.47 behind Umpi Swart. So to hold on to the back of Umpi Swart, Troy Dolanchik is starting to put up, shall we call it, lap records within this race, and he still finds himself a half a second out. So Umpi Swart's definitely turned up the wick. Let's have a look at the last lap times that they actually put up. What was the differences there? Yeah, look at that, 0.24 and 0.41, so that's 17 hundredths of a second. That Troy Dolanchik was quicker than Umpi Swart. 3:55 all the way down to Chase Herald. Everybody in the 55s on that lap, and 5 of them, that is all there. Chase on the 56, and then a 57 for Leon van Beek, who's 1.4 seconds ahead of Tristan Nobriger, that has taken about 7/10 of a second out of him on the wall. That was all over the top of the curbstone. That was very close for Jason Coetzee.
Well, Gary, Dolanchik is the quickest man out there, 3:54.224, and that's even quicker than the practice times, but he's 2.2 seconds behind Umpi Swart. So did he make a little bit of a mistake and lose a touch of ground there to Umpi? He's the fastest man out there, but it's now 2.1 seconds that he finds himself behind Umpi Swart.
If you look at that, everybody that went into pits, laps 1, 2, and 3, Gerald Verrees out of it, Noor Hendricks is out of it, so lap 1, 2, and 3. So if these cars were fueled fat, that they could make it from start to finish, but they were told that they have to do a compulsory stop, then those guys do not have to go in again. If there's not enough fuel to do the full 1 hour 30, those guys are all going to have to go into a second stop as well.
Right, so with the 45 minutes done, we've reached the halfway mark. Graham Stephen is right on the case there of Peter van der Spey. There's 8/10 of a second between van der Spey and Graham Stephen for P12 and 13 as they work their way down that Mulsanne straight towards that second hairpin chicane, or bus stop chicane, whatever you'd like to call it.
So Frankie, if you look at that, Umpi Swart, the highest point scorer going into this, and Umpi Swart leading out. So he's sitting right now on 20,000 rands worth of prize money. Byron Mitchell, that's in that second position, he finds himself 8 points ahead of Troy Dolanchik. But Troy Dolanchik's on to score 24 points right now. Byron Mitchell in 6th position is only going to score 18 points. So that is 6 of the 8 that is available. So Byron Mitchell can stay where he is, but he cannot go one position further back, because then they're going to end up level on points. How they're going to sort it out from there, we'll leave that up to Jaco Steyn to sort it out.
Well, if I was Jaco, if they did end level on points, I'll go all the way back to the opening race of the season to see which one ended ahead of the other one in that race, and then split it from there. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, Jaco will have to make his own mind up how he's going to do it should that scenario play out. But we still got a long way to go before the end of this one. And Peter van der Spey has been hunted down here by Graham Stephen. And into the pits, 47 minutes comes Dolanchik. Well, I said 55 minutes on. He obviously has got other ideas and other plans as Dolanchik, because Jason Coetzee is also coming down pit lane. Well, remember, we normally say 50 to 55 minutes. This is a lot longer circuit to go. They're doing 3:54 a lap. So I think they might pit now. So this will be the first time this season that they're proving me wrong.
Well, and no, Leon Verweyck says not yet. Tristan de Nobrega, he says now's a good time. I think I'll follow these guys in. What does Willem Botha do? Willem Botha comes through as well. Peter van der Space says, you guys can faff around over there. Let me just see what I'm going to decide. Yep, here you go. No, he doesn't. How's that for the little dive, Graham? Stephen, am I, aren't I? Am I, aren't I? Nope, I'm going to go straight through.
Well, whatever you tried to do there didn't work because Graham Stephen did not fall for that one. As a matter of fact, the Nobrega is in the pits as well. They're all coming down the pit lane there as Dolacek works his way back out onto the circuit. Now, this has caught guys like Swart and Familiaris and even Lucchesi completely unaware unless they're in on a different strategy. This one's going to be won by who makes the best strategy pit stop and not necessarily the fastest car out there.
Well, let's be honest, Jason Gutierrez got some clean air in front of him. Troy Dolenchik, he's got 2.47 seconds of open air ahead of him as well, so that's quite fine. Chase Herald on his way out. Willem Botha is on his way out. Jonty Weiss is coming to the pits. Corne Breet is coming into the pits as well. So while all that's on the go, Umpi Swart out in the open, in the clear, 9.7 seconds. Now let's have a look, see what is the time that they spent in the pit lane. Is it all very similar? 109s, 116, 113, 114. Tristan de Nobrega, 109. What did he not do that Troy Dolenchik and Jason Kutsia did? Now, knowing the master tactician Umpi Swart, he'll come up with some other way of having a quicker pit time.
Well, 109.2 and 109.6 for de Nobrega and Botha. Sandra Bakari on a 53.6. I think they might only have just taken fuel and not fuel and tires. Although I'm just having a wild guess. I mean, I'm not too sure exactly what their strategy is. What I do know is that Umpi's going to probably have to come and pit now. Because if he doesn't and he stays out too long, will his tires go off? We don't quite know what's going on there. Obviously, they are more with it than what we are here. We're just calling it as we see it. Familiaris is 9.8 seconds in that second position, but only 2.3 ahead of Luke Lucchesi. That is currently there in P3, and he's 3.2 ahead of the man that's in P4, namely Byron Mitchell.
So Luke King just a little bit out of picture at this stage of the fight. There he comes through. You could just see these little markers at the front. But now the question bodes, does Umpi Swart come into the pits? Does he bring Julian, Luke and Byron with him? We're about to find out. I think he's going to go in.
I think so.
Yep, he goes in. So there he goes. Now then here comes the next man. And notice the livery on those two cars. It's kind of similar.
Well, they're all going to come in. Lucchesi is going to have to come in as well. Yes, he does. King is going to have to come in as well, which he does. Mitchell making his way in. King is going to have to, as I said, yes, and he also comes into the pit area. So yeah, they all going to have to come in now. The question is, they will want to know where Dolacek and Kutsia and those guys are, because they are sitting in P9 and 10 at this point, and we'll have to look and see what they're going to do. Surely Van Wyk is going to have to come in. Yes, he does.
Well, the next man that's going to come through there then is going to be Peter van der Spey. But, well, he's still quite a long way back. 45 seconds they've been standing already. Look at how they're all standing there in that pit lane. Let's have a closer look at that one. Is he ready to go yet? Who's going to be the first one to get out of the pits? They're all standing there just about good to go. 102, 103, 104, 109 is about the quickest that anybody's really been able to do it. Can Umpi do it? Yes, Umpi does. I told you. Umpi is super quick that he comes out of the pits, although the timers are 1 minute 15 for Umpi Swart. So let's go with Umpi Swart. Whereabouts does he find himself? There's Umpi Swart. Where is Troy Dolenchik? There's Troy Dolenchik. Then who's the next man coming through behind that? Oh, Deja vu. They're back on the circuit. There's nothing much in it. Look, the keys is there. And there is Julian from the RS. Jason Coetzee, that was up to 4th position, now finds himself a long way down. Somehow didn't work out for Jason Coetzee. 1 minute 14 for him. From, remember, it looks to me that is the marker once you go into the speed limiting section, and then the other mark is when you exit the speed limiting section as such, and that is those pit times that you see there. Look, Lucchese 0.2 behind Byron Mitchell. Were you once that top 3?
Well, Mitchell has got exactly what he got. I believe I said earlier on that he may be way in the earlier part of the production. I said just that maybe we'll be waiting for the pit stops, and then when Luke King had a mistake, he said, well, this is part of his comeback, and then the pit stops has worked out. He is in 3rd place, but he's been hassled heavily here by Luke Lucchese. Sander Bakar, on the other hand, is crowding that bootlet there of Peter van der Spey's Red Bull BMW. BM being hassled heavily here by the Ferrari as they make their way onto the Mulsanne Straight. Just around that right corner there is Mulsanne Straight, and Bakari's got the line. Sander Bakari's got the line, but if he stays there and he can stay next to Van der Spey all the time, then Bakari will have the line for that first chicane.
Yep, he is already slightly ahead. Have you ever seen Sander Bakari when he's got a choice of cars in anything other than a Ferrari?
And he backs out.
Strange.
He backed out of it. He had the line for that chicane. Well, either he backed out or the BM was faster. I don't know.
Ooh,
now he'll have to move to the inside, because the next chicane is not a right-left, it is a left-right. So he's going to have to stay there. He's got the line for it. Easy ahead of him. He is slightly ahead of Van der Spey. He's going to have to move slightly over in front of him. Van der Spey will want to go for that line, but I don't think Peter's close enough, and he's not, to make the move there and take that place back from Bakari.
Bird's eye view for Graham Stephen that's watching these two. So Sander Bakari does eventually get past. Luke Lucchese is once again
right on the case there of Byron Mitchell, yes. But we knew that. I said earlier on that he was hassling Byron Mitchell big time. So as they make their way towards the end of the lap, all these curves, there's Chase Herald. He's right on the case of Tristan de Nobrega. That's at fight for P8. He's a 10th of a second behind de Nobrega is Chase Herald. Porsche being hassled there by the BMW as they make their way under the Audi Sport Bridge and work their way. That is through Indianapolis that they are going now.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of trees there, so there'll be undulation in terms of the track temperature in those areas. But given that it's roughly about 2 o'clock the afternoon was the settings in which this one was done, I think the track temperature will be pretty much the same. Even where there is shadows here and there, those shadows will be moving. So I don't think that there will be variation in the grip in general as they work their way around the circuit.
So we've lost Gerald Fourie and Lua Hendricks. Gerald retired on lap number 7, and Lua Hendricks did not get into this one. Duncan Murray is 1 lap down, and it shows that Ferrari is also out. So if that's the case, you've lost 3 of them. As we watch Chase Herald there in that 9th position, hunting down Tristan Nobrega as they work their way towards the main straight. There's only one real dice there, and that is the Mitchell and Lucchese one for that 3rd position. Otherwise, everything else is now beginning to open up. It's funny how after the pit stops, the gaps just tend to open up, and then it's almost like the guys are nursing it home for the last half an hour. Lucchese is nursing nothing home. He is pressurizing Byron Mitchell for that 3rd spot as they make their way down the Mulsanne Straight. Mitchell does have the line for that first chicane and just pulls there ahead of Lucchese.
Well, the top runner being Umpi Swart now not that far ahead of Troy Donaldson. Byron Mitchell 4 seconds further back, and then with Luke Lucchese all over his back bumper. Does that give the opportunity for Julian Famaros to get a little bit closer? Keep an eye on that one. It's 1.7, 1.8 around about there. Julian Famaros to the back of Luke Lucchese.
Well, there comes Dolacek through the picture, and here comes Byron Mitchell. Right on his case is Luke Lucchese, and 1.7 behind him is Julian Famaros in a Ferrari P5. And just in the background there, you saw the BMW of Jason Kutsia.
I see Sandro Beccari's gone into the pits, so that means that if I've got it correct, he's in fact had 2 pit stops. So the guys that went in lap 1, 2, 3 and 5, it looks like all of them have to do the necessary second time into the pits as well. Luke Lucchese in that 4th position, chasing down Byron Mitchell.
He's chasing down Mitchell for that 4th place. There you just see Dolacek busy working his way through. There is Mitchell in P3, Lucchese in P4. Behind them, 1.8 is Familiaris. Just behind them, you see Jason Kutsia, 3.6 behind Familiaris. There the 3 of them come. And just over the crest there, you see that BMW of Jason Kutsia.
Yep, Jason not that far behind. He was at one stage all the way up to 4th position. And now Jason finds himself just a little bit further back. I don't think he'll be too happy with that, because he did work very hard to get to where he did. And now he's sitting off the back end of Julian Famaros. Julian Famaros sitting off the back end of Luke Lucchese. Byron Mitchell quite happy in the top 3, but it's not going to be easy.
There's a fight there for P8 between Tristan de Nobrega and Chase Herald, the Porsche and the BMW. And there is Chase Herald in the Beamer, right on the case, 7/10 of a second just there behind the Nobrega for race driver SA in that 7-0 car. And closing behind them is Willem Botha. He's only 2.9 seconds behind these two, and that is the fight for P8, 9 and 10. Make it P11 because Leon van Wyk is not too far behind Botha.
Let's have a look at those that have not had a good day. Noor Hendricks, I don't think he even clicked in initially. Gerald Ferry, Duncan Murray, both of them are out. Raymond Duggan, when have you ever seen him right at the tail end of the field? Virtually never.
Yeah, for RID, for Rad Racing, Raymond Duggan, and he's 40 seconds behind Sandro Beccari, that just came out of a second pit stop. Did Sandro Beccari, so he finds himself in that 19th position, just ahead, well, 40 seconds ahead of Raymond Duggan. There's Courtney Breed. Here's a fight evolving, because he's 1.1 seconds behind Peter Hubert. There's Hubert, and there's Courtney Breed. For Flying Gypsies Racing is Courtney Breed, and Courtney is having a lovely fight here with Peter Hubert, and Stephen Cakebread is also in there. As a matter of fact, Peter Hubert is only 5/10 of a second behind Stephen Cakebread.
Well, just ahead of that is John T. Weiss, and he hasn't had what he's accustomed to doing. He's in the 15th position. He finds himself behind the likes of JJ van der Merwe, who had a lot of bad luck earlier on, but who's actually, he's actually gone into the pits. I was just saying he's going to make up quite a bit of positions, but then again, that's with the other guys going into the pits, and now he's going into the pits.
But he was also one of those drivers that pitted lap 1, 2, 3, so he's going to have to come in with the hour and a minute done. Otherwise, he will run out of fuel before the 90 minutes is over.
Graham Stephen chasing down the man in front of him, Captain Peter van der Spey. I think it's the highest that Peter's been so far in this race, up into 12th position. Peter's got a massive big gap between himself and 11th, so I don't think he's even worried about what's happening in front of him with an hour and 2 minutes down, 16 laps around the circuit. Peter van der Spey 18 seconds off Leon van Wyk, but Graham Stephen right in there behind him.
There's Leon van Wyk for BIT, sitting there in that 11th position. Now he's basically in no man's land, because he's 3.4 behind Willem Botha, and he is 18 seconds ahead of Peter van der Spey, that's still having a fight here with Graham Stephen for that 12th position. Tracy Herald coming through there in P9 is 1.5 seconds behind the Nobriga. It was a bit of a fight early on, but not much now. The Nobriga is getting away here from Tracy Herald. There is Tristan, that you see there in 8th position in that race driver SAP Sports Porsche of his, and he is 1.7 ahead of Herald. There's Luke King, that is in that 7th place. He's 8.7 behind Jason Kutsia, and this is the man that's sitting 4th overall currently in the championship.
Yeah, just ahead of him is Jason Kutsia. As I said earlier on, I think we're a bit disappointed with a 6th position right now, and 4 seconds off the back end of Julian from the RS, and a reasonable possibility that Julian from the RS can in fact pick up the slipstream of Luke Lucchese, and that is then going to give him a couple of slightly quicker laps. There you can see Luke Lucchese is being closed down by Julian from the RS, and Julian from the RS and Luke Lucchese with Byron Mitchell just in front of that. So Byron is actually having a very good run.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Gaz. I want to ask you a question here.
Hit me.
Is there any way that we can make contact with folks at home that maybe want to send us a call it a WhatsApp or whatever the case may be? Because if you can, we are live on YouTube. I know there's normally people that do watch and then they normally cheer for their drivers, so if there's anybody that is or wants to, please feel free with the final round, and we will get to it and we will read of it if we possibly can. The race is busy opening up. There's only a fight for that 3rd position between Mitchell and Kutsia. There's 0.2 of a second there, and then there's one between Graham Stephen and Peter van der Spey. There's 0.5 of a second there, and we're currently watching the one between Mitchell and Lucchese for P3 and 4, with Familiaris 1.8 seconds behind them in that Ferrari. There you see Julian coming to view. So Gaza, have you got anybody on board?
Talking about that, man, Kelly Fletcher, instead of saying good luck to his man, she says good luck everyone on the Second Year Talk Show page.
Many thanks. We'll be seeing her, I think, on the 21st of October for the next main circuit event, together with people like Byron Mitchell and Yuri Swart and others. So this is the fight that we are watching, and Mitchell has still been hassled here by Luke Lucchese, and right behind the two of them is Julian Familiaris. There's 1.6 seconds between Familiaris and these two guys that you see there. Just disappearing out of your shot there was the 2nd place BMW of Troy Golichek, as we ride aboard the 2-0 Familiaris Iran Motorsport Ferrari, staring down the combination of Mitchell and Lucchese ahead of him.
Well, he's made up 0.2 of a second so far. You'll see under braking, it'll come a little bit closer, and then once they climb on the gas again, it goes down to 1.5. Once they climb on the gas, it will go up to 1.6. So Julian desperately trying to close that gap on Luke Lucchese, to put the pressure on Luke Lucchese and force Lucchese to put the pressure on Byron Mitchell to somehow try and force a mistake. But let's be honest, Luke Lucchese, Byron Mitchell, they don't easily make mistakes whatsoever.
Well, I see Peter Hubert has gone into the pits, but he was also one of those drivers that pitted very, very, very early towards right at the beginning of the race, together with the likes of Samuel Macari and JJ Van der Merwe and others. So Peter Hubert in the Audi is making his way out of the pits, otherwise he'll never see the checkered flag. And talking about this lot, Luke Lucchese in that 4th place is still right on the case of 3rd place man Byron Mitchell, as they work their way towards Indianapolis.
Byron not exactly doing anything other than putting it right in the middle of the track, and he's forcing Luke to go literally over the edge of the track to try and get past him. You can't get much closer than that without making contact, and off they go. And there you see the gap opens up just a little. Choose for the RS from 1.8 to 1.7 to 1.6 to 1.5. Now Julian 1.4. At what point do you start picking up a slipstream? I'm going to hazard a guess at around about 0.8 or 0.9 that slipstream will start coming into play.
Well, a second or just under a second, that's when that will start coming into play. You pick up the toe from the car there that is ahead of you. Luke Lucchese still pressurizing the Mitchell Audi here as they work their way towards the start finish line. You see the big Ferris wheel there on your left hand side. Then you know that the pit complex will come into view and those grandstands will come into view, and then you know that you're on the home straight.
Very, very similar lines between Luke Lucchese and Byron Mitchell. Oh, just bouncing over the curve, and that's going to cost him a little. That is going to cost him. He's just opened up to almost half a second. Luke Lucchese on Byron Mitchell, but I think once they get through that complex of Dunlop and Chapel and Tetra Rouge, you'll probably find then that he'll be able to close it up in the slipstream as they go out onto the main section, the first main section of the Mulsanne Straight.
That's going under the Dunlop Bridge. They're going to go past the Chapel and then going towards Mulsanne. It's like a double right-hander, and then you start going into Mulsanne. That is the first of the right-handers there. It's a slight double right-hander, then it goes into that second one, and then it's Mulsanne Straight all the way down towards Mulsanne Corner, which from where they are now is very far away.
Is Luke Lucchese going to go for it this time? 0.17, 0.16, 0.15, 0.14, 0.13, 0.2, 0.1. Within a tenth of a second, and he runs out of. Everybody says, "Oh, the Mulsanne Straight is so long." Luke Lucchese is saying, "Why is this thing so short?"
Well, they made it shorter by putting those two chicanes in way back in the days in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s. They never had those chicanes there, and people like Sarel van der Merwe will tell you how scary that the Mulsanne Straight is without those chicanes. Especially at night, he can tell you stories about this racetrack that will get your hair raising, that's for sure.
That's in the days of the March Creepy Crawly Porsche.
Yeah, well, that's what he did the 24 hours of Daytona with. But he did race for Porsche, yes, in the Le Mans series, a couple of Porsches that he raced for various teams.
Maybe it's time for us to actually haul out the original double header that we did on the second year talk show with Sarel van der Merwe, 50 years in motorsport, and just relive those two amazing shows that we had with the super van alter ego being explained exactly how it all works and how he intimidated people in the pits and how it played out on circuit back in the day.
Right, but it's Byron Mitchell that's got to do some serious defensive driving here. I will say with an hour and nearly 11 minutes done, he doesn't need to have that Luke Lucchese Porsche all over the back of his Audi R8. This is doing, it's allowing Dolacek and Swart ahead of Dolacek to get away there, because there's nearly 7.7 seconds between Dolacek and Mitchell, and 3.2 between Swart and Dolacek that's in that second position. And that's one of two dices out there. The one is for P12, Graham Stephen and Peter van der Spey, and I think Graham got his nose ahead there of van der Spey.
You somehow sit watching this, glued to it. You're watching the board on the left-hand side to see what else is going on, but somehow at any given moment you're expecting for Luke Lucchese to go for the dive, but he just doesn't take chances with this kind of thing. And I think to take somebody like Byron Mitchell out, you actually let yourself down, and I think that is why Luke Lucchese is being extra careful not to drive through the audio of Byron Mitchell, but try and ride around the Audi of Byron Mitchell.
Look, Luke obviously understands
that was an error. That was an error.
That's pressure.
This might be it.
That is pure pressure here by Luke Lucchese. But as I'm saying, Luke will obviously realize that the three drivers ahead of him are, between the two of them, first, second and third in the MSA GT3 Series. And obviously Byron currently is second in that championship. But if he stays there, he should still finish second, with Dolacek third and Umpi in P1. But of course, anything can still happen. But Luke will obviously not want to jeopardize Byron Mitchell's chances. But here comes Familiaris, and as we were talking about all of this, we never kept tabs on Familiaris, and Familiaris says, well, if you can't get past Mitchell, Mr. Lucchese, then I will make the move there on you, and I will move up into 4th position. So Lucchese has lost that position to Julian Familiaris.
Let's just have a look, see exactly how that passing maneuver did happen. Oh, it was just purely perfect timing.
Yeah.
Right time, right place, lined it up, kept the accelerator buried, dived up on the inside, forced a roll off of the gas on the lane that he was trying to pass, and bang, he makes it up. Well, Jason Kutsia will be looking at that and saying, guys, just mess one another around just a little bit. I'd like to get a top 5.
Well, let's have a look and see. Will Julian now get away from Luke? It's not going to be that easy to get away from Luke Lucchese, that's for sure. Luke sitting there in P5 is probably saying, yeah, this is what happens when you're now focusing on trying to get the guy ahead of you, and you don't keep tabs of what's coming up behind you. As a matter of fact, we were mesmerized by that fight, and we didn't even realize that Julian was slowly but surely creeping up and getting closer and closer. And the moment he had the shot, he fired that shot and got his nose ahead there of Lucchese.
It was actually very opportunistic if you think about it. I mean, we were sitting with those two cars for how many minutes that we were sitting expecting the move to happen. And as you say, we didn't look back like this from the back bumper to see what was happening behind. There's just 15.5 minutes to go. Umpi Swart has now done the breakaway from Troy Dolacek.
So what I normally do is I look at the gap to see how it's getting closer and closer, and I didn't, because I was, as you say, expecting some kind of a overtaking maneuver, and Julian caught everybody napping there with that one. But he's not catching Lucchese napping because he's not getting away from Luke. There's only 0.2 of a second between himself and Lucchese, and Lucchese is going to say, no. You don't understand. That 4th place isn't yours. I want it right back.
Yep, the Porsche and the Ferrari going one-on-one, and there's now less than 15 minutes to go. So let's just go from the top and down. The man that started on the front row of the grid, the highest point scorer going into this one, Umpi Swart, doing a fantastic job, swapping positions once or twice with Troy Dolacek, and then eventually making just a bit of a gap between himself and the Sujin Properties Investcam Formula 1600 champion 2023, Investcam Formula 1600 runner-up, and well, rookie should I say, in 2022. And the question bodes, and if you've been watching the second year talk show, the last time we had a chat with Troy Dolacek, where do you go from here? So he says, well, the problem is you can now go and sell the Investcam Formula 1600 car. You get 200,000-300,000 for that. You then get your 200,000 rand prize money. That's fantastic. But 500,000 doesn't even get you into a seat in anything overseas. What does Troy Dolacek do from here? Is it going to be global touring cars? Will he go to the Polo Series? He went out from karting into Libra so that he could do open wheel racing because that was what he wanted, and he's now conquered that at the age of 17. But where does he go to from here?
Well, either GTC, or I would think he should maybe go to, if he stays around, maybe Super Cup. I think that would probably be the next move for him, Super Cup, and then GTC. That's if anything else doesn't come up for him. There is Byron Mitchell.
I wonder if he won't maybe do a Byron Mitchell and have a look at endurance racing. Start riding the McLarens, the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, and the AMG Mercedes, and get accustomed to that big power and see if he can maybe get into the SA Endurance Series for 2024. That might be a possibility.
Oh, that's probably the best route to Europe as well, if you can get into the SA Endurance Series. But yeah, obviously time will tell what he's going to do next year.
Unless you go GB4 with the likes of Jared Roberski.
But then you're talking about
not 500,
money.
yeah. not 500,000.
To get into that GT4. Remember that Jared came second in that championship last year. His teammate came first and the team won it. That's why he's in the GB3 for 2023. But let's focus on what we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is the fact that Familiaris that took that fourth position away from Lucchesi. It's not getting away from him. Jason could see 4.7 seconds behind them in P6, and then 6.6 behind Kutsia in P7 is the Dotsoft Racing BMW of Liu King. There we see Tristan de Nobrega in P8, and he's only about 2.5 seconds, just over 2.6 seconds ahead of Chase Herald for Chase Herald Racing in the BMW that sits there in that 9th position. And then rounding off the top 10 in the being IT Porsche is Leon van Wyk.
Willem Botha, the next man that's in there, and then you'll see that's just going into the chicane. That was Graham Stewart in the Golf entry, the second of the Audis out on track. He has managed to stay ahead of Peter van der Spey. That's Peter van der Spey in the BMW. And he's still ahead of Jonty Weiss. There's Jonty Weiss. And then there's a massive big gap, 35 seconds back to Stephen Cakebread. 1 minute 18, in fact 1 minute 19, 11 minutes to go for this man.
So there is Umpi sitting out there in a P1. It's 2.7 seconds between himself and the dollar check. Let's see if that gap stays the same, or does it get bigger, does it get smaller. We'll have a look and see. Currently it sits there on 2.7 as we watch them come. This is a replay on the BMW of Corne Breed for Flying Gypsies Racing.
He almost held it.
Losing it heavily there coming out of that right-hander.
How's that for parking it in style? Or wait till the next car comes. Well, you can't reverse all the way up the straight. It's going to take miles too long. Can he spin it around?
Well, that's the whole idea.
It's very difficult to get these cars turned. They've got a very big turning circle. There he gets it going. So losing massive amounts of time. And yeah, that's dropped him just a little bit further back.
So back to P1 with Yuri Umpi Swart, the man from Durant Motorsport, the man from Bullion IT Racing, the reigning 2022 GTI and overall champion and class champion. And he's been hunted down by this man. It was 2.7, it's 2.5. So Dollar Check is slowly but surely clawing his way back into this one. So with nearly 9 minutes to go, it's not quite over yet, but for victory in this one. But I think Umpi will just I need to ride out this last 8 well, let's say 9.5 minutes and just get this thing to the checkered flag and wrap up the 2023 GT3 Championship that is brought to you by MSA and proudly sponsored by Canvas Intelligence.
Yep, 60,000 range with a prize money. Well, if you think they've done 21 laps, and on the last lap there was virtually nothing. There was 2/10 between Troy and Umpi. If they carry on exactly the way they are now, well, then Umpi Swart not only leading it going into the finals, but winning the final round as well. To the Familiaris is very, very close.
Yeah, Familiaris has still been hassled heavily here by Lucchesi. Julian is 2.3 behind Mitchell. So let's have a look at that. He's getting closer to Bowden Mitchell, which means he's bringing Lucchesi with him as well. And not too far behind them is Jason Kutsia, nearly 5 seconds down the road is Kutsia, followed there by Liu King, 6.2. But I'll be looking at Liu King in the Dotsoft Racing BMW. I'm just watching that gap between Swart and Dollar Check. It's gone up again to about 2.6. So it's not over yet, since neither is this fight for that fourth position. As a matter of fact, I'm going to even go as far as say for third position, because Familiaris is saying to Lucchesi, come with me and let's see if we can't hook up onto the back end of the Byron Mitchell Audi.
I think Byron Mitchell knows that he needs to keep a gap. He can rather run a little bit on the edge and keep the gap there than ride it a little bit safer, and then they catch him, and then it becomes dangerous anyway. Because I mean, well, when you haven't got much to lose, and there's a difference in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 rands worth of prize money, well, yeah, the guys get a bit pushy when you're talking about that kind of numbers.
Yes, he's still not going to give up, that I can promise you. He's moving. It's a tenth of a second between himself and Familiaris as they work their way through Indianapolis. And the moment you get out of Indianapolis, you start working your way under the Audi Sport Bridge and then towards that chicanes, which will take you onto that main straight. Here comes Jason Kutsia in the 77 Race Driver SA Esports BM. Then Luke King in the 43 Dotsoft Racing BMW in that 7th position. As he's working his way around, and he's 23 seconds ahead of Tristan de Nobrega, that's in P8.
Tristan has eventually now broken a bit of the slipstream between himself and Chase Herald. Chase Herald 2.9 behind him and 8 ahead of Leon van Wyk. 6.5 minutes to go. I'm going to predict the order that they are is the order that they're going to end, barring can Luke Lucchese pull one on Junior Familiaris, and I personally think it's not going to happen, because knowing Luke, he will not do anything that might turn Junior Familiaris around and affect his race at all. I think he'll rather stay one position further down and do it correctly than actually go and mess it up. Remember, he's the man that's putting together Sports and GT Masters and Elite series, which will be running every single Wednesday from here on out until the last week in November. And he's the one that promulgates the clean driving and sportsmanship that is required from iRacing at the highest levels, and it would be completely wrong for him to do anything other than try and do it 100% correct.
Looking sitting out there in that 7th position with that Dotsoft Racing BMW, as we have a look at Tristan de Nobrega sitting there in that 8th position, 3.3 ahead of Chase Herald. There you see the CHR Chase Herald Racing BMW just behind the de Nobrega outfit. There's Leon van Wyk rounding off the top 10 in the Being IT number 79 the Porsche, and then just behind him 7 seconds is the Race Driver SA Esports Toyota Gazoo Racing, whatever you want to call it. You should mark that as well. That is Mr. Willem. It's just outside of the top 10.
Yeah, I think you'll be a bit disappointed. Look, it is the top 40 South African qualifiers that have taken part in the Canvas Intelligence GT3 iRSA MSA Series for 2023. So you are up against the best. If you think there is at any given time anything between 9,000 and 12,000 people on average on iRacing at any given hour of a 24-hour day, and there's less than 500 registered iRacers in South Africa, but that is purely because of the cost factor of being able to do this form of motorsport. Remember, a car like this is going to cost you around about 250 Rand, a track like this 250 Rand, and if you want to ride one of these series, you need numerous different circuits, numerous different cars, most of the guys having spent on the top end of over 30,000 Rand on the content, because each car that you drive, each track that you drive on, you have to purchase it, and it just gets very, very expensive in the long run. So you've got to invest a serious amount of numbers to be able to do this.
Oh, watching that fight there, the one that you just jumped to for P12 between Graham Stephen and Peter van der Spey behind him, only 2.8. So Graham Stephen is actually now beginning to pull the pin and get a little bit further down the road from Peter van der Spey. Man, they did so well in the Sports and GT series. He came first in the Grandmasters category.
I think he's leading the Grandmasters category.
Well, they've had two races so far. Well, one race, no. Two, because they did two on the day, and he won both of them. So in his class, the Grandmasters, so he will be leading that one. Yes, Mulsanne Straightaway will be second in that one, as we watch him trying to catch Graham Stephen.
So let's go back to the front end of the field. It's all about Ompi Swart. That's now taken 4.4 out of the man in second position, Troy Dolanchik. And him and Troy were all the earlier part, the first 2/3, they were within literally a length or two of one another. Both of them notably quicker than the rest of the pack. Of that, there's no doubt. There you see, there's your first position, there's second position, and third position not even coming into the picture yet. There's still 10 seconds before you get to the next one, and there they come. That is Byron Mitchell. Bit of a gap between Byron Mitchell, and then there comes Julian from the RS, and Julian from the RS with Luke Lucchese behind him. Then we've got Jason Garcia, who was up to 4th position at one stage of the fight with just 2 minutes to go. So this is probably on their last lap. There comes Luke King, and Luke Lucchese is on the move. He is in it to win it.
No, Luke Lucchese, well, won that 4th position badly, but look, he's not in that top 5, and Familiar RS is the last man in that top 5 behind Luke King. So wouldn't phase him too much if he didn't make that top 5. But I mean, once a race driver, always a race driver. He will beat the guy out the track that's there ahead of you. And at this point in time, it is Familiar RS. So keeping in mind that Julian did sneak one over him when he was involved in that little fight early on with Mitchell, and all of a sudden he didn't realize that Mr. Julian was there and lost that place to him. So he, just for the heck of it, he'd like to get that P4 back again.
Just not that extra little bit of pace to come and stick it up on the inside line, and you would see he lifted off and coasted just a little bit underneath the brake marker just to give himself a little bit more space, and then he will use the slipstream to get a little bit closer.
Well, the leaders are now, or the actual leader himself is heading towards that second chicane and making his way down the Mulsanne straight towards the Mulsanne corner. So his race is almost done. He's got 25 seconds left before we see the checkered flag. So the hour and a half should be over before Umpi Swart gets to the checkered flag. And of course that includes Troy Dollarchek as well. They are the leading duo. And then it's 11 seconds before we see Byron Mitchell. Now what's playing in the hands of Byron Mitchell here is the fact that Familiar RS cannot attack. He cannot go for an attacking move at all because he has to defend that position that he's got from Luke Lucchese. So he has to defend P4, and in doing so he cannot be released to go after Byron Mitchell. So that will play into Byron's hands, and Byron will know that his third place is safe.
Jason Garcia not being able to close up at all, staying around about 6 seconds off that.
With Luke King in that 7th position, Gaza, as I'm sure the checkered flag will be coming out now because we're 9 seconds overdue. So this should be the final lap for Yuri Swart.
Keeping in mind that he was the highest point scorer coming into this. There you can see Umpi Swart from Byron Mitchell and Troy Dollarchek, and Umpi Swart going to take that last race and make it his own ahead of the highly acclaimed Troy Dollarchek, Byron Mitchell, Julian from the RS, Luke Lucchese, Jason Garcia. That's just the top 6 that he's beaten out. And as always, Umpi Swart, a class act.
Well, let's have a look and see. He's working his way towards the... Yeah, he's flashing the lights already. He knows it's game, set and match. There is the stadium that's coming into view. Pit lane is there on his right-hand side. There is the back end of the grid. Into that right-hander. The checkered flag is out. And your GT3 MSA Series champion, unofficially, for 2023, and the winner of this race is Yuri Umpi Swart.
Troy Dollarchek comes through. He'll be pretty chuffed with that one. Here comes Byron Mitchell. He managed to eventually hold out on the highly talented Julian from the RS, who held out there on Luke Lucchese. Yeah, that was very, very tight to hold out Luke Lucchese. Jason Garcia, a bit unlucky. He was on his way towards the front, and then it just tapered off in the middle, and he lost out on that. Luke King, once again, a very good result for Luke King. Can never ever count him out.
Tristan de Nobrega will finish in that 8th position. and he is 25.5 seconds behind Liu King. Here comes the Nobriga towards the checkered flag in P8. Not too far behind him, 4.3 seconds behind him in P9 is the BMW of Chase Herald. Chasey in that top 10, and the last man in the top 10, 10.5 seconds, is that man coming out of that right-hander, and that is the Being IT Porsche of Leon van Wyk, and he was just 4.3 seconds ahead of Willem Botha in P11.
Willem also had a pretty decent race, let's be honest. A big gap back to Graham Stephen. He had problems and off earlier on, but he fought his way back to 12th and held on to that ahead of the super quick Grandmaster Peter van der Spey, and that will give him a 12th in the Golf Audi, the second of the Audis. Chase Herald standing there alongside the circuit. There comes Peter van der Spey. Jonty Weiss, bit of a quiet run for Jonty Weiss. I think he would have liked to have been a little bit further forward.
Sander Bakar has still got a fight on his hands for that 15th position. He's fighting it out there with a Stephen Cakebread for P15 and 16. They are heading towards the checkered flag, and I think that Sander Bakar has done enough to hold on to that 15th place. The BMW is chasing him down of Stephen Cakebread, but Sander Bakar just has to take it around a few of these chicanes under the Ford curve. You see there's the pit entrance on the right hand side. This is the final left right chicane, and Sander Bakar will come over 15.8 of a second ahead of Stephen Cakebread in that 16th position.
Having had a bit of bad luck earlier on, the man in the Soul Mercedes-Benz, the Bigfoot Express AMG Mercedes-Benz, beautiful looking motor car, that Bigfoot Express Freight being the sponsor on that motor car, and he'll come across the line. It still flashes a light, and I've had fun. I've been out there, I've had good time. A long way down for Raymond Duggan, not where he expected, wanted to, or needed to be at all.
And right on his case there is the Audi of Peter Hubert, 5.3 seconds between Duggan and Hubert, and that is that. Corne Breed.
You realize Chase Herald waited till the last car came past,
Yep.
and he was standing there waiting to be able to do his donuts.
He'll be lucky nobody plowed into him, but well, that was obviously his game plan. So we have to say unofficially, because we may not say official yet. Obviously, Jaco Steyn has to make it official. So your results officially is Yuri Swart from Toy Jolacek, Brian Mitchell, Julian Familiaris. That is your top four. But unofficially, your champion is Yuri Swart. Second will be Byron Mitchell. Third will be Troy Dolacek. And I think that Luke King might have just done enough. Well, this is still the old points. I think he might have just done, I don't know.
Luke
maybe
King from Julian from the iRSA, that is 14 points. Yes, I think that's enough.
I think Julian might just have pipped him for that fourth position. But the top three, as you see them there, unofficially, those are your 2023 MSA GT3 Series champions. And a big thanks to Canvas Intelligence, our main sponsor, for plenty prize money. Canvas Intelligence, thank you very much.
Yep, as we always like to say, support those that support us in motorsport, and Canvas Intelligence coming up with the big numbers to draw all the best drivers in South Africa. A big thanks to the man that put it all together,
Yep.
to Jaco Steyn, and another man that helps massively in the background, which is Luke Lucchesi, doing all the batteries and the backups and the installations and what have you for us down here in Cape Town. And then also remember the Big Six. Don't ever forget the Big Six, that actually Frankie put us on the map and bought this massive computer that can take all these circuits with 20 plus motor cars and give it to us in 1440 with 60 frames per second, which is beautiful quality. So to the big six, you guys know you are. Thank you very much. Exactly the same as what you placed on the desk in the studio. That is what has been used to bring you the iRSA MSA GT3 2023 series to a close. And in fact, from me, cheers. I'm going to give it to the voice of Veterans Motorsport to close it all off for 2023.
Well, I want to say big thanks to, as Gary said, to Jaco Steyn for the Porsche Cup, to ASAP New and Used Motor Spares. They were part of the Porsche Cup, so big thanks to them. That's also come to a conclusion for this year. To the GT3 Series and to Canvas Intelligence, a big thanks to those guys. And a big thanks to Motorsport SA, because they backed up both those series. So to Motorsport SA, a big thanks to you people as well. So yeah, Gary, the two biggies have come to an end for 2023. We look forward now to the GT Sports and GT series that will be on Wednesdays, and then of course the Clio Cup, which will take us to the end of the year, and then we'll do the big ones all over next year. Look after yourselves, people. Enjoy the rest of the week. It's 10 o'clock local time here in Cape Town, and we will see you around. Cheers, everyone.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.